This is Kevin. He's a charter pilot that flies a whole arsenal of cool planes. He invited me on a flight recently to Long Island, New York. There's a restaurant on the field at Brookhaven, so we're flying and we're eating. He's got some incredible stories from flying humanitarian aid in the Democratic Republic of Congo to losing an engine over the North Atlantic, nowhere near land. Strap in, it's a good one. We're taking this King Air F90-1 from its home in downtown Island Airport here in Knoxville to McGee Tyson, also here in Knoxville, to pick up our passenger. From McGee Tyson, our planned route is to fly at 25,000 feet to the Lancaster VOR in Pennsylvania, and then into Brookhaven, New York. As you can see, that flight path crosses directly over the flight path of JFK. Obviously, in that insanely busy airspace, we're expecting to be rerouted. How is anyone's guess, so we'll just have to be ready. Now that we're loaded up at McGee Tyson, Kevin just has to run over some checklists and we're on our way.
This is my squad.
Flags pulled, we're ready to taxi. Brakes off, taxi light on. Knox Tower, King Air 7206 Echo, TAC Air, ready, taxi.
King Air 7206 Echo, Knox Tower, taxi up to hold short Alpha.
Up to hold short Alpha 7206 Echo. Air cleared as filed up to 6,000 feet. 50 and 10. And departures on 23.9.
Yep.
And the squawk is set.
Perfect.
Back to auto feather, and that'll get it before takeoff.
Awesome.
All right, so crossing the line, we'll get auto feathers on, and ice is on. We'll get the ignition, the heat, leads are on. That'll be it.
13603, runway 23 left, clear for takeoff. Fly heading 230.
230 on departure, clear for takeoff, 23 left. King Air 7206 Echo. Auto feather, ignition, lights, heat, bleeds, trims, flaps, all set. IC23, HSI agrees. There's the governors. Power set. Lights out, lights on, 2 good engine. 80 knots. E1 rotate. Positive rate, you're up. Away we go.
King Air 06 Echo, contact departure, have a great day.
Go on departure, 06 Echo.
Sure.
Thank you. Next departure, King Air 7206 Echoes at a 2.1 for 6,000, 230 heading.
Or 7206 Echo departure, rudder contact, climb and maintain 12,000, turn left direct Lima, Romeo, Papa.
12,000 left direct, Lima, Romeo, Papa, 7206 Echo. 12,000 set.
The downside of this plane being so fast is we can't put a camera on the outside. I wish I could share the gorgeous view of busting out of the clouds on this one.
May need to break out the sunglasses here in a minute.
I know, I forgot mine.
Uh-oh.
Bonehead move.
Oh, that's pretty. Look at that.
Yeah. That's what I'm talking about.
They really did a nice job making this airplane. So Beechcraft made this auto feather system where once it detected a certain difference in torque,
Yep.
or if it detected a torque change below a certain set level, they would go ahead and feather that engine, assuming it had failed. That's what we're checking, just to make sure that system works.
Very cool.
10,000 feet, so we'll turn the auto feather off. We don't need it now. Recognition lights off, and we'll arm the oxygen system. I try and give my passengers the smoothest ride possible. So
Of course.
if that means I have to work a little bit more, then
That's why you're here,
that's
right?
why I'm here.
Yeah.
Especially in all the Corona mess, what I've found is a lot of the private air travel is really picked up. People don't want to be, exposed to everyone, and airlines aren't terribly fun for a lot of folks anyway. So,
If you have the means to do this, it's
yeah,
well, it's the best option.
yeah, absolutely.
I mean, you get closer to where you want to be, and less
A
hassle.
lot less hassle.
Yeah.
I mean, she walked into the door, went to the restroom real quick, hopped on the airplane, and we're gone.
Amazing.
About to come through
Two calls, separate frequencies, number
18,000, so altimeters go to 2992.
How long have you been flying?
I took my first flight when I was 10.
Okay.
I looked up one day and saw an airplane flying over and said, that's what I want to do. That looks like fun. And I was fortunate enough to go to a church that had about 5 or 10 other pilots, and so they kind of took me under the wing, so to speak, figuratively, literally. And
Honey.
yeah, I know. I'm a dad, so I get a certain number of dad jokes a day, and
Same.
so I'm down one now.
Contact Atlanta Center 132.907.
I'm not counting.
Okay. Yeah, so I started flying when I was 10, and by the time I was, 12 or 13, they were letting me sit in the left seat and do the radios and do the flying. And so by the time I could actually afford formal lessons, it was kind of a formality.
Okay.
I was just checking the box to make sure, okay, yes, I've observed him doing this. And, I wasn't able to take formal lessons until college, and I went to Middle Tennessee State. Get a degree in aviation maintenance management and my A&P, the aircraft mechanics license. My roommate at the time was a pro pilot major. He convinced his parents he needed an airplane, and I said, hey, I'll do the maintenance on it if you let me put gas in it and fly it. He's like, okay. So it was really a good deal, started working on maintenance experience while I was in college, and $15 an hour for fuel at the time, and $15 an hour for the instructor, and I had my private in no time.
Tough to beat.
Yeah, it really was a good way to go. And then graduated in 2005 and started working for a local charter company as the director of maintenance. And the guy that owned it, ran it, who's now the DPE you took your check ride with, a super guy. And one of the things he loves doing is taking young folks that are hungry to learn.
Yeah.
And working with them. If there was a dead leg, a deadhead, I was on it and we were training.
That was how you got your
Multi-commercial, multi-instrument. Started building, more time and more experience, in real world situations, going into, high traffic volume air places. Go to DC a lot. We go to, Atlanta a lot. Places where you're really having to work and deal with weather and deal with air traffic control. And
Yeah.
I worked for him for about 3.5 years before I went to Africa, and it was bittersweet because it was something that we wanted to do. My family and I, we wanted to go overseas and serve in a humanitarian missional capacity. But I loved working for Mike.
Yeah.
And so it was that was a hard one.
So how long were you in Africa? Tell me about that. Where were you?
We were in Democratic Republic of Congo, in the capital city of Kinshasa, and we lived there for a total of 3.5 years. The group we were with was Mission Aviation Fellowship. So I served as a pilot, mechanic. We had 3 bases in the country, one in the northeast, one in the southeast, and one in the west. We were in the west. I ended up kind of overseeing the maintenance operations for the other 2 bases as well.
Okay.
I would go back in a heartbeat if we could. Yeah, our term was supposed to be 2.5 years, and then we'd come back for home assignment for 6 months just to rest. It was a fundraise position too, so we had to catch up on fundraising, visit family, visit friends. The biggest thing for ours, it was a pretty high stress environment in Congo. It was an interesting time. We learned a lot about ourselves, and but I wouldn't trade it for anything. And like I said, I would go back in a heartbeat.
It changes your worldview
Completely.
which changes the way that you live domestically, I think, too.
Completely. But
Culture shock is real.
yeah, and we felt it worse coming back than we did going over.
My most, I guess, major culture shock was coming from Tokyo to Cincinnati, where I'm originally from. And I did not fit in. I did not belong there.
I wasn't military, but I found I fit in a lot more with the military crowd than I did with anyone else because they
were transient.
They had that overseas experience. They had the different worldview.
Yep. Same.
And and anytime you find someone who has traveled, it's like, oh, yep, there's a connection, and we're going to get along just fine.
Yep.
Our daughter, when we moved to Congo, she was a year and a half, and we stayed there until she was
about 5.
just about 5. Yeah. And that's what we've found, and we've been amazed at is, watching her. Every day she'll come home, Daddy, I've got a new best friend. Daddy, I've got a new friend. Daddy, I've got a new friend.
Yeah.
Just because we were in such a transition all the time. The transition was constant. She adapted really quickly to being able to make friends in any situation.
Resiliency is huge in that one. Yeah.
I've found for me, it's kind of almost the opposite. I'll kind of get shy and kind of go into my own world, just because sometimes it's so hard to explain the differences to someone who doesn't get it.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm a pilot, I fly around. Okay, well, we can relate to that.
Yeah.
But when it starts to, the third culture.
I would you move to Africa?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like eating bugs. I don't know.
Yeah. We're en route to a restaurant.
Yeah.
What is the strangest thing you've eaten?
Had snails. The grubs were different. They kind of pop, and there's some crunch, and there's some goo, and the caterpillars were pretty good.
How are they prepared? Do you just eat them off the tree, or
some guys did. I was never the grubs. I tried just to try it.
Okay.
And then about untried it. Kind of buttery.
Yeah.
The caterpillars were good, so they'd take them and they'd squeeze the guts out, and they'd boil them in salt water, and then dry them, and then ended up with the consistency and the taste of beef jerky.
Okay.
So that wasn't bad at all.
Not bad, yeah.
Not bad. Then mix it with peanuts. That's pretty good. I would eat that again.
Yeah.
You start turning stuff like that down, and you're gonna offend people. We had a snake, antelope.
Yeah.
Probably
That's all pretty benign.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the boa was pretty good. We had a 206 there, and we had a Cessna Caravan.
Okay.
206 was avgas burning, and we were paying at times up to $25 a gallon
Whoa.
for avgas. So it was burning, 15, 16 gallons an hour, and our shortest trip was an hour out, an hour back. So there's 30 gallons right there, times $25. You can do the math, and that was a huge operating expense. So I was in the 206 in the Caravan.
Okay.
There were 2 seasons, wet and dry. Wet season, we would get a lot of big tropical rainstorms, and those were fun, but they were isolated. We didn't really have many major weather systems that would move through. We never saw rain for like 3 months. Like dry season was dry season, but the visibility dropped to, there were at times it was, a mile.
Really?
And it was just haze and dust.
Uh-huh.
But everything had a nice layer of dust on it, and so we'd be at, 5,000 feet, and we could just see, a little bit straight down. So it was, we had GPS, but there was no radar, so there was no air traffic control, so we were on our own. So the GPS essentially was backup. Everything else was heading, time, and checkpoints. And, you fly a route enough, you get to know, okay, you're still flying over the jungle, so it's, I don't recognize that tree, but, okay, there's a river, and I recognize that bend in the river. I recognize this there's a little bit of clear space here, or there's this village here. There were, very few approaches in the country, so it was mostly all visual. We would do vaccination runs with, polio, measles, the major viral killers. We would do vaccine runs every quarter, and that was the only way that could happen was with the airplane. And so we would load the Caravan up. It would take 3 or 4 days, and we'd hit 12 different airstrips, and we would carry tons, literally tons, of vaccines and vaccination supplies out to these airstrips. We saw the effects of polio every day, even in the city. Things like insulin. We would take insulin out, and it just could not be done any other way.
Right.
Like the vaccination runs, I know for a fact that there's kids running around in the jungle that, would have, could not be running if they got polio or, all the side effects of measles. So I know they're as good that, we were able to accomplish.
Yeah.
Kevin's story is long and interesting. We'll get back to it soon, but it's time to get our reroute from New York Center punched in. It looked something like this. We ended up coming in from the north, totally sidestepping, flying through New York City.
So now, currently, I work for a company flying and maintaining their aircraft. We have a Cirrus SR-22 and a Piper Meridian. I've got the job that I want. And all the clients that I fly for on the side, they treat me really, really well. I really enjoy flying for them. I like having a relationship with them. And, all the equipment I fly is really good. So,
Sure, yeah.
So I count myself really lucky to have that. I've had a bunch of folks ask, why don't you go to the airlines, or why don't you fly for, some of the, the FlexJet or the. If I did that, I'd be gone, 15 nights a month or more. And I've got young kids. I've got an 8-year-old, a 6-year-old, and a 3-year-old.
The concept of being home at night is underappreciated, I think.
Yeah, it is.
At this point, we're 20 miles out and they've only descended us to 19,000 feet. That gives us little time to lose a lot of altitude. Kevin does an amazing job of making an aggressive descent feel really smooth. On our downwind leg in the pattern, I looked at the airspeed indicator, 220 knots. Watching him slow down from that to bring the plane to the ground was artful. Now that we're on the ground, time to eat. As we walk the ramp, we start noticing all of the forgotten planes. Brookhaven seems to be the land of misfit toys. Lots of cool birds. One of them even had a tree growing out of it. So sad to see how neglected some of them are. We get to the diner. It's very much a greasy spoon type of place. And that often means there are some real gems, and we're both pretty ready to eat.
Thank you, sir.
That was crazy cool. I loved it. There are so many more systems than I'm accustomed to.
Yeah.
And so, like, from Island Home to Tyson, I was like, ooh, I don't know.
Yeah, that one happens really quick.
Yeah.
And we used to do that in the Baron all the time. And that was, I first started doing it in the Baron. I was kind of like, oh gosh, I've got to do it. There's so much to do. And then it's okay, you do it and you get used to it. And then that's one of my favorite trips.
Yeah.
Because you're busy the whole time and your brain's thinking and engaged in every single thing that's going on.
Right. I think I'm going to do that turkey ham and cheese BLT wrap.
I don't get burgers a whole lot,
but
I think that's what I'm going to do. I think he said there was a chicken strip on it too?
Yeah. I don't know if it's on it or with it.
Okay. I'll try anything once.
Cheeseburger topped with bacon,
Barbecue sauce.
and chicken strip as a bullet point. Must be on there.
All right.
Get freaky, man.
I shouldn't have worn the white shirt. Just make it messy.
You're going to need a napkin in the...
Cover the microphone with it.
Maybe. Yeah.
I mean, I've already got barbecue sauce on
Yeah,
mine.
yeah.
And chicken and beef. I mean, how many flavors can we get into one?
They should call it the menudo sandwich.
Yeah,
it's got it all.
It's got it all. Do it all.
Thank you.
Wow.
No, I think we're good.
Good, thanks. That is a lot of burger.
Yeah.
I may end up taking the chicken off and eating it. I'm definitely gonna have to dissect this a little bit.
I was going to say, I see you
that's a
tearing
big
apart
bite.
your... How is the ridiculous burger?
It's good.
Yeah.
There's a lot to it. It's a big mouthful, so
When he first mentioned it, I was like,
surely that's on the side.
the nuggets on there, the tenders on the side? Nope, it's in it. Silly.
I like it. As hungry as I am, I'm after the protein and calories. And
Kim says hunger is the best seasoning.
absolutely.
I totally agree with that.
Look at a lot of beef in that patty. Look at that.
Yeah. That's not one of those like Cisco frozen patties.
No, you can tell that it's the structure of the meat is. They packed it here.
If you make your own burgers, it's easily apparent. And it gives you an opportunity to season the meat before it's cooked, which goes a long way.
My mom always used to say that, I would never be able to make a living by staring out a window. It's what I do now.
Yeah.
So, yeah, looking back on my career, I don't think that the degree was a requirement to do maintenance. But for the flying, it has certainly helped out. But I could have just as easily gone to a tech school for the A&P. I'm glad I went. It was definitely a good experience all the way around.
Oh, that was a really nice landing. It was so nice he's going for another one. That's always a mistake.
Never say one more.
Yep. Thanks, man. Have a great night. See ya. Thank you. You did the same.
We're full, the plane's full, we're ready to fly. This is a good spot to end this episode. Like and subscribe to Plain Delicious. Don't forget to click the bell to get notified when the next installment of this trip is posted, where Kevin tells us about losing an engine over the North Atlantic, nowhere near land.
About 150 miles off the east coast of Greenland, over the North Atlantic, Mike makes the mistake of saying, man, these engines are running good.
And I make the worst radio call I've ever made.
My bad. There's a whole bunch of twos in there, I know it.
A spectacle worth tuning in for.